What is the dumbest thing you have ever done to win an argument? Be honest. Maybe you stayed up until 3 in the morning just to prove you did not need sleep. Maybe you ate a pepper so hot that you cried for 20 minutes just to prove you could handle it. Maybe you argued with a GPS for an hour just to prove you knew a better way. We have all been there. Small, stupid, embarrassing moments where our ego took over and our brain checked out. Now imagine that instead of a bad night's sleep or a burning mouth, the price of winning the argument was your entire fortune and then your life. Not because you were a soldier in a war. Not because you were trying to save anyone. Not even because you were hungry or cold or scared, but because your wife said you could not do something and you had to prove her wrong. Today, we are looking at rich men throughout history who heard their wives say, "Please do not do that," and then immediately did that and died. These are not accidents. These are not tragedies. These are choices, and every single one of them could have been avoided by saying 3 simple words. You are right. But they did not. And now we get to laugh at them from the comfort of our own homes. Let us get into it! Our first story takes us to Greece. Not ancient Greece, with the philosophers and the gods and the epic battles. Modern Greece. Well, early 1900s. Modern. The king was Alexander. Not the famous one. A different Alexander. He was young. He was handsome. He was just 27 years old, and he had a problem. He hated being told what to do. It did not matter who was doing the telling. His advisors, his generals, his mother, especially his wife. Queen Aspasia was beautiful and smart, and she loved him very much. That is why she tried to keep him alive, which turned out to be a full-time job. One afternoon, King Alexander was walking in the palace gardens. It was a nice day. The sun was out. He had his dog with him, a big German shepherd. Loyal, protective, also kind of aggressive. The dog saw something. A monkey. A pet monkey that belonged to the palace grounds? The monkey was just sitting there, minding its own business, eating a piece of fruit. The dog did not care. The dog attacked. Suddenly, there was chaos. Barking. Screaming. Monkeys screeching. The dog had the monkey in its mouth. The monkey was fighting back. Biting. Clawing. The gardeners ran away. The guards ran toward the commotion. But King Alexander was faster. He ran straight into the fight. He started trying to pull the animals apart with his bare hands. And that is when Queen Aspasia arrived. She saw her husband, the king of Greece, wrestling a screaming monkey while a German shepherd barked foam everywhere. She begged him to stop. She said, "Let the guards handle it." She said, "You could get hurt." She said, "You are the king. You do not fight monkeys." The king looked at his wife. He looked at the monkey, and you could see it in his eyes. The argument had already started, because his wife had just told him what to do. And if he backed off now, she would always know that she was right. He could not have that. So he grabbed the monkey harder. He pulled. The monkey bit him. Deep. On his hand. On his leg. The king yelped. He let go. The monkey ran away. The dog ran away. The king stood there bleeding. His wife ran to him. She said, "Let us get a doctor." The king said, "I am fine." He was not fine. The bites got infected within hours. His hand swelled up like a balloon. His leg turned black and purple. The doctors came. They did not have antibiotics back then. They did not have modern medicine. They had leeches and prayers and hope. None of it worked. The infection spread to his blood. Sepsis. A few weeks later, King Alexander of Greece was dead. 27 years old. He had ruled for less than 3 years. He died because his wife said, "Do not fight that monkey." And he said, "Watch me. Congratulations, Your Majesty. You won the argument." And the funeral, his wife became a widow. His dog outlived him. And somewhere in the palace gardens, that monkey probably told his monkey friends the story for the rest of his life. Let that sink in. A king died to prove a point to his wife, and he lost. Our second story is not about a king. It is about a man who thought he was smarter than every doctor, every engineer, and every common sense rule ever written. His name was Thomas Midgley Jr., and he was a genius. An actual, real, textbook genius. He invented two things that changed the entire world. The first was tetrathyl lead. That is the lead they put in gasoline. It made cars run smoother. It also poisoned the air and caused millions of people to suffer from brain damage, heart disease, and early death. The second thing he invented was chlorofluorocarbons. CFCs, the stuff in aerosol cans and refrigerators that ate a giant hole in the ozone layer. So this one man is responsible for two of the biggest environmental disasters in human history. He was brilliant. He was also incredibly arrogant, and that arrogance is what killed him. Later in life, Midgley got polio, the same disease that paralyzed Franklin D. Roosevelt. Midgley could not walk anymore. He could barely move. He spent most of his time in bed. His wife, Carrie, took care of him. She loved him. She hired nurses. She bought special equipment. She begged him to let professionals handle his care. But Midgley was a genius. Geniuses do not need help. Geniuses invent their own help. So Midgley designed a system, a complicated, beautiful, insane system of ropes, pulleys, levers, and counterweights. It was attached to his bed. He could pull himself up. He could turn himself over. He could lift himself out of bed and into a chair. He was so proud. His wife looked at this machine and said something very simple. She said, "This looks dangerous." She said, "One wrong pull, and those ropes could choke you." She said, "Please, just use the hospital bed I bought you." Midgley laughed. He actually laughed at his wife. He said, "You do not understand engineering? You do not understand physics? You do not understand me? I designed this. It is perfect." He refused to hire more help. He refused to buy a safer bed. He refused to listen, because listening would mean admitting that his wife might know something he did not. And that was impossible. So, the machine stayed. And Midgley used it every day, pulling himself up, turning himself over, feeling like a genius. On the morning of November 2nd, 1944, Midgley was alone in his bedroom. His wife was downstairs. The nurses were out. He reached for one of the ropes, but he pulled the wrong one. Or maybe he pulled it in the wrong direction. Or maybe the rope had frayed. We do not know exactly what happened. What we know is this: the ropes twisted around his neck. The pulleys tightened. And Thomas Midgley Jr., the man who changed the world, the man who thought he was smarter than everyone, strangled himself to death in his own bed, surrounded by his own brilliant invention. His wife found him. He was 55 years old. She had been right. The machine was dangerous. The genius was wrong. And the last thing he proved was that no amount of intelligence can fix a man who refuses to listen to his wife. Let us take a quick pause here, because I want you to imagine that scene. A millionaire inventor, dozens of patents, 2 world-changing discoveries, killed by a rope he tied to his own bed frame because he did not want to hire a nurse. If that is not the most embarrassing way to die, I do not know what is. And we are not done, because the next story is even worse. Let me introduce you to Signor Giovanni de Ventura. He was a rich Italian plague doctor in the 1600s. Now, you have seen plague doctors before. The long black coats, the creepy masks with the bird beaks. They looked terrifying. But here is the truth. Most plague doctors were frauds. They had no real medicine. They had no real cures. They had costumes and confidence. Ventura was different. He actually believed he had found the cure for the Black Death. And his cure was amazing. His cure was expensive. His cure was also completely insane. He believed that drinking melted emeralds could cure the plague. Yes, emeralds. The green gemstones. He crushed them into a powder. He mixed them into wine or water. and he told his patients to drink it. And because he was rich and famous and very confident, people actually paid him for this. They drank, crushed rocks, and hoped for the best. His wife, whose name history sadly forgot, told him he was going to kill someone. She said, "Emeralds are rocks. Rocks are sharp. Rocks do not dissolve in your stomach. Drinking crushed glass and stone will tear your insides apart." She begged him to stop. She said, "Please just sell the emeralds and buy actual medicine." But Ventura would not listen. Because he was a genius, just like Mitchley. And geniuses do not take advice from their wives. One day, a wealthy patient was dying of the plague. Nothing was working. The man was coughing blood. His skin was turning black. Ventura saw an opportunity. He said, "I will prove my cure works." He called his wife into the room. He called the patient's family into the room. He crushed a handful of emeralds. Large ones. Expensive ones. And he drank the mixture himself. Right there, in front of everyone. He wanted to prove that emeralds were safe. He wanted to prove his wife wrong. He wanted to show the world that he was not a fraud. He was a genius. The emeralds did not cure the plague, but they did exactly what his wife said they would do. The sharp edges of the crushed gemstones cut his throat. They cut his stomach. They cut his intestines. He was in agony within hours, vomiting blood, unable to stand. His wife watched. The patient watched. The family watched. Ventura died 3 days later. Not from the plague. From internal bleeding caused by drinking rocks. His wife did not say, "I told you so." But everyone in the room was thinking it. And the patient? The patient also died. From the plague. So Ventura killed himself and did not even save anyone in the process. That is what we call in the history business a total loss. Our fourth story is short, but it might be my absolute favorite. In the late 1800s, there was a wealthy French aristocrat named Monsieur Delorme. He loved balloons. Not toy balloons. Hot air balloons. Huge, beautiful, dangerous balloons. He wanted to fly across the English Channel. It was his dream. No Frenchman had ever done it alone. He was going to be the first. His wife begged him not to go. She said the weather report was bad. She said the balloon was old and needed repairs. She said, "You have never flown that far before. You do not have enough experience. You do not have enough fuel. Please wait until spring. Please hire a co-pilot. Please just stay on the ground for 1 more week." Monsieur Delorme looked at his wife. He looked at the sky, and he said something that I promise you I am not making up. He said, "A man does not listen to a woman about the wind." Those were his exact words. He said them out loud, in front of servants, in front of his children, in front of God. Then he climbed into his balloon, cut the ropes, and floated up into the gray, windy, stormy sky. 15 minutes later, a storm hit. Strong winds, rain, lightning. His balloon was carried out over the ocean. He did not have enough fuel to fight the wind. He did not have a radio. He did not have a life jacket. He had his pride and a basket. That was it. He was never seen again. They searched for weeks. Nothing. His wife became a widow. His children grew up without a father. And every single person in France said the same thing. His wife told him not to go. Monsieur Delorme proved that a man definitely should listen to a woman about the wind. Because the wind does not care about your pride. The wind will kill you just as fast as a monkey bite or a rope or a handful of emeralds. Our fifth and final story is about the Titanic. You have heard the Titanic story 100 times. The iceberg, the lifeboats, the band playing. But you have probably not heard this part. Benjamin Guggenheim was one of the richest men on that ship. He was not a good man. He was not a kind man. He was a rich man. He was traveling with his mistress, not his wife. His wife, Floret, was safe at home in New York. She was not on the ship. That is important, because even though she was not there, the argument was still happening inside his head. When the Titanic hit the iceberg and everyone realized the ship was sinking, the crew started loading women and children into lifeboats. Guggenheim's mistress begged him to put on a life jacket. She begged him to get into a boat. She said, "There is room." She said, "You can survive." She said, "Please." The crew begged him. Passengers begged him. Guggenheim refused. And here is why. He had spent his entire marriage hearing his wife say that he was all talk and no action, that he was a coward, that he would never do anything brave or noble in his entire life. He had argued with her about it for years. And now, in the middle of the freezing Atlantic Ocean, with the ship tilting beneath his feet, he decided to prove her wrong. Not to her face. She was not even there. But in his own mind, he was going to die like a gentleman. He was going to show the world that Benjamin Guggenheim was not a coward. So he went back to his cabin. He changed his clothes. He did not put on a life jacket. He put on his finest evening suit. Top hat, tailcoat, white tie, polished shoes. Then he walked to the grand staircase, sat down in a comfortable chair, ordered a glass of brandy, and waited. Someone asked him why he was not trying to escape. He said, and I quote, "We are dressed in our best and prepared to go down like gentlemen." The ship sank. He died. His body was never found. His mistress survived. His wife collected his fortune. And somewhere in heaven or hell or wherever rich men go, Benjamin Guggenheim is still sitting in that chair, wearing that tuxedo, holding that brandy, wondering if his wife finally thinks he is brave. Spoiler alert, she probably does not. Because real bravery is putting on a life jacket and helping other people. Real bravery is swallowing your pride and admitting you were wrong. Real bravery is listening to your wife when she says, "Do not fight the monkey. Do not tie the rope. Do not drink the emeralds. Do not fly into the storm. And definitely do not wear white tie to a shipwreck." So what do all these men have in common? Money. Yes. Ego. Definitely. Wives who loved them enough to warn them. Absolutely. But mostly, they share one fatal flaw. They would rather be dead than be wrong. They would rather lose their lives than lose an argument. Every single one of these men heard the words, "Do not do that." And every single one of them said, "Watch me." Then the entire world watched, and the wives collected the inheritance. And historians like me collected the stories. And now you are sitting here, watching this video, laughing at men who died because they could not say 3 simple words. You are right, dear. Here is the thing. None of these deaths had to happen. A king did not have to fight a monkey. A genius did not have to tie a rope around his own neck. A doctor did not have to drink crushed emeralds. An aristocrat did not have to fly into a storm. A millionaire did not have to put on a tuxedo and wait for the ocean to take him. They all chose death because they all chose pride. And that is what makes these stories so perfect for this channel. They are not sad. They are not tragic. They are stupid. Gloriously, historically, hilariously stupid. And that is why we love them. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, you are my kind of person. You like dark humor. You like irony. You like watching rich people make terrible decisions from the safety of your own couch? So do me a favor. Hit that like button. Smash it. Show the algorithm that people still enjoy laughing at dead aristocrats. And subscribe to this channel. Hit the bell too! Because I have so many more stories like this. Stupid ways rich people died trying to prove a point. Stupid ways rich people died because they would not listen. Stupid ways rich people died doing things that poor people know better than to try. Every week, I dig up the most embarrassing, most ironic, most avoidable deaths in history. And I deliver them right to your eyeballs for free. Do not be like Benjamin Guggenheim. Do not wait until the ship is sinking to prove your courage. Subscribe now while you still can. Thanks for watching. And remember, when your wife tells you not to fight the monkey, listen to your wife.